poster for Iron-Jawed Angels, a movie that chronicled the suffragist movement that took place in Fairfax County in Washington, D.C. in 1917, which basically is the story of Alice Paul and Lucy Burns, who decided they needed to do something to shake up the movement and get the attention of the nation. And as Irma described, so they did. The movie took a little liberty with some facts, and we, in the League of Women Voters of the Fairfax area, have published a little book called Remember the Ladies, based on Abigail Adams' admonition to her husband to remember the ladies when you're writing the laws for this country and governing this country. Remember the Ladies was first put out in 1983 as a companion piece to the historical marker, roadside marker, that is on Ox Road 123. It was on the side of the road going south, it would be on the right, where the Occoquan workhouse, where the ladies were imprisoned, was located. Then Fairfax, they widened the road and decided to build the Fairfax Griffith Water Treatment Plant, Fairfax Waters Griffith Water Treatment Plant. And now that plant sits approximately, their auditorium is approximately on the side of the building where the women were held in 1917 and mistreated, as Irma spoke about. I'm going to put this down now. So our book the Fairfax County, we're called the League of Women Voters of the Fairfax area, which covers both the county and Fairfax City. The Fairfax Area League decided we needed to, as Irma said, recognize the history of the women's movement that took place right here in Fairfax County. So we got a historic marker that is on the side of the road and now is in the turnaround as you go up to the gate to go into Fairfax Water. And this book was published first in, as I said, 1983 to commemorate and give the story of the women. Basically, Iron-Jawed Angels is the movie version of Remember the Ladies. So I have some copies back there. We have I ever given you one, Supervisor Hudgens? Have I ever given you one? I'm not. Okay, well, you will get one. And Cora, you will get one. Compliments of the League. We also ask for those who are not League members to give us a donation of $4 for one. Anyway, they're back there. So what I like to say about Remember the Ladies is it's the real story behind Iron-Jawed Angels. Okay, really quick, I'm sure you wonder why the League of Women Voters is so concerned with the history of the suffrage movement. Well, in Seneca Falls in 1848, there was someone called Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Lucretia Mott who held a demonstration, a protest, a rally to explain the fact that women needed the right to vote. They were not equal citizens. Fast forward, Elizabeth Stanton met Susan B. Anthony in 1851. Actually, I got her niece to give me all these things yesterday. And in 1851, Susan B. Anthony met Elizabeth Cady Stanton, and they became lifelong friends and partners. Now, Elizabeth Cady Stanton was a wonderful writer, but she spent all her time at home raising 7 children. Luckily, husband was supportive of her efforts, but she had to stay home. So Susan B. Anthony went around the country talking about women's rights to vote. And through the Civil War, there was Sojourner Truth. There were actually, at one point, Frederick Douglass got involved with the women's suffrage movement. By 1890, there was a group formed out of 2 other groups called National American Women's Suffrage Association. Elizabeth Cady Stanton was the first president until 1892. Then Susan B. Anthony kept the presidency for the rest of the century. In 1900, the president of NASA, as we call it, was, and it's just gone, Carrie Chapman Catt, who was another one of the, and actually what I ought to do is give you the pictures. This is Alice Paul. This is Elizabeth Cady Stanton. This is Susan B. Anthony. Right side up. This is Sojourner Truth. This is Cady Stanton. She became president of NASA in 1900 and served until 1904. And then her husband was ill, and I think he died during that period. And then she came back in 1950 and served until 1921, when women got the right to vote. NASA was then turned into the League of Women Voters. So we have a direct lineage from the women's suffrage movement. And of course, we now had, that was the national, then the national came down to grassroots through the state leagues and the local leagues, and the Fairfax area is the local league. What I like to say, there was an intervening president between Carrie's two terms, and that was Shaw. I think I've got it written on another piece of paper. Anna Howard Shaw. She was a minister and a doctor, MD doctor, back in 1900. That's pretty amazing. And this lady is Jane Addams, Addams. She started the first settlement house, as they were called, in Chicago, which basically was a home that served, and today's words would be provided social services for the poor. And she received the Nobel Peace Prize in 1931. So she was part of the women's movement. Okay, so now you know why the League of Women Voters is concerned. Now you know why the Fairfax Area League of Women Voters is concerned about what really happened here. And quickly, I've got some more pictures of the movement and what Alice Paul did. Very, very quickly, she and Lucy Burns, who sort of mimicked the Susan B. Anthony, Elizabeth Cady Stanton partnership. They were big buddies. They came over in England after England. And by the way, suffragette is British. Suffragist is American. Even leaguers get this confused. So just give you a little gee whiz information. Anyway, they decided that they were tired of being ignored by President Wilson and Congress and all that, and they tried in 1913 to march on Washington and successfully did. Inez Mulholland is the woman on the horse. They raised a lot of awareness, but Congress and President Wilson remained unmoved. So then they came back, they went around the country and drummed up a lot of support and came back. This one denied President Wilson's audience the first time he was inaugurated. Second time he was inaugurated, they came back to D.C. and had another demonstration that denied him an audience on his second inauguration. And this was when they had, I don't know, it was a petition X miles long. Well, he was still unmoved. Congress was still unmoved. So that's when Alice Paul and Lucy Burns decided they needed to shake things up again. They were part of NASA at first, and then Alice Paul pulled out and formed her own party called the National Women's Party.